Because yes, he deserves that. Now, we've been seeing film, we've been seeing photographs. We saw some piano music even in the film. Now we're going to move on to a different art form, literature. Writing, poetry, novels, essays, stories. I'm a writer myself, so I'm very happy to invite two writers here on stage. And let's begin with Ismaël Camara. Ismaël, you are carrying one of your books, Landschap van mijn ziel. You've also published this collection called Smile and a novel called 100 Golden Horses, A Journey to the Promised Land. And as we just heard from Sunny, the journey to the Promised Land can be a long and tough journey. Ismaël, you write non-stop in every form and shape you can think of. You walk the streets of your city, you perform your poetry to people. What is the driving force between this poetic man?
Well, the driving force behind my poetic manner is just like what Enneka said. Mm-hmm. It's about positivity. Stay positive. So poetry became kind of a therapy for me as someone who has been rejected by the Dutch government, the immigration, in 2012 when I came, and kicked out to the streets. So then I discovered poetry. Yeah. And it became like a therapy, a home, and everything.
Cool.
Yeah.
Poetry like a home. I think we have a short video, of Ismaël performing some of this poetry. Let's watch.
Ik heb 7 jaar op straat geleefd, in Rotterdam. In die periode heb ik mijzelf opnieuw moeten ontdekken en kwam erachter dat een schrijver en dichter in mijn schouder. De straten en pleinen werden mijn podium om mijn verhaal te vertellen. Ik hoor bij de Temne-stam en ben geboren in Rotembana, een dorp in Mambolo Chiefdom in het noorden van Sierra Leone. Ik kreeg mijn basisonderwijs onder een boom, maar de middelbare school was een echt schoolgebouw. In het 3e jaar moest ik helaas stoppen, omdat mijn familie het niet meer kon betalen. Ik heb de burgeroorlog in Sierra Leone meegemaakt. De oorlog liet een grote gat achter in het sociale en economische leven van ons land. In 2012 ben ik gevlucht naar Nederland vanwege traditionele en sociale druk van mijn volk. Na 7 jaar op straat zit ik alweer 9 maanden in een AZC. En ik wacht nog steeds op een verblijfsvergunning. Maar ik geef niet op. Nooit. Mijn naam is Ismaël Camara. En mijn eerste roman heet 100 Golden Horses, A Journey to the Promised Land.
You'll never give up are the last words you say here in this clip.
No. It's rather unfortunate it's in Dutch, but I believe my brothers and sisters can feel the story from the pictures. Yeah. It's a summary of my life, my journey, in 1.5 minutes.
It's an excellent short video. Can you also share some of your poetry?
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead.
I want to read from my book Smile. Mm-hmm. It's my debut. It was published in 2018 in the UK by Afan Books. So I want to read the poem Smile itself.
Cool.
Because that poem is my fight poem, It's the first poem that I wrote, actually. So it goes like this. It is difficult to smile, but it's sometimes easy. When I look at the mirror, I see a man. I see a man who looks just like me. I smile and say to him, many of my smiles begins with you. My smiles brought me so many motivations. Even when my grandmama passed away, I smiled too. I smile, even when I don't have a place to call home. Someone sleeping next to me saw me smiling while sleeping. Making someone next to you smile is more than giving them gold and silver. Invest your time and money in things that makes you smile, for smiles are always profitable. For many are rich in money and material things, but they still need someone to make them smile. Use your smiles. Use your smiles to overcome your fear, anger, and difficulties. My name is Ishmael. Life is tough on me, but I always smile. Thank you. I also want to do one in Dutch. I will do one in Dutch from my last book. This is Landschap van mijn ziel. The poem title is, I think it's one of the last one. Ik moet vluchten. Yeah. Ik moest vluchten. It's about someone that have to flee. Ik moet vluchten, I have to run, you know. Er is geen ruimte in jouw gedachten om mijn omstandigheden te begrijpen. Want je staat niet in mijn schoenen. Ik ben bang gemaakt. Ik ben bang gemaakt door de monsters uit mijn achtertuin. Die heeft mij kwaad gemaakt toen ik moest vluchten voor mijn leven. Mijn koffer was leeg, maar te zwaar om te dragen. Ik heb mijn identiteit achtergelaten. Hoe kan ik dat bewijzen als mijn vinger nergens kan wijzen? Bereik ik een nieuw land? Vluchteling, roepen ze naar mij. Als vluchteling blijf ik vechten om mijn leven als mens terug te krijgen. Ik dwaal door de Nieuwbinnenweg en de Mauritsweg om mijn verhaal te vertellen. De straten worden koud, mijn stem trilt terwijl ik wacht op mijn verblijfsvergunning. Het ASKV is een fabriek voor depressie. Daar wonen hopeloos mensen zonder agressie. Ik wou dat u in mijn schoenen of in hun gedachten wandelt om te begrijpen wat er echt toe doet. Dank jullie wel. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Het AZC is a factory of depression.
Yeah, the AZC is a factory for depression, just like what my fellow my colleague just said. Yeah. You know, while telling that part of the story, I recognized it, you know. You know, dreams has been buried. People are walking dead, you know. It's a system that is designed actually to kill you mentally. Mm-hmm. So if you cannot hold on, you'll be walking dead. Yeah. And that's what's going on in the camps.
Exactly. And tonight we're meeting people who are walking that fine line between the depression and the hope or the smile.
Yeah.
How did poetry become your home? Because you're telling us a story like you were not a poet before in Sierra Leone, but you became a poet here.
Yes, I wasn't a poet in Sierra Leone. I didn't discover myself as a poet there because our culture of storytelling is not through writing.
Yeah.
It's through, you know, how do you call it? Explanation, you know? From grandfather, oral form of storytelling. From grandfather to father, father to son, you know? So we are very beautiful storytellers, but people, they don't know they are poets. So when I came to the Netherlands, I was curious to learn, to integrate. So I was actually discovered through a poet, you know, through my figure of speech. And the person said to me, I think whatever you say means something. So if you put it in a context of a text, then you can become a writer. Yeah. And then I couldn't believe it at first, because in our culture, someone who writes a book should be highly educated. And I only stopped at secondary school, So I couldn't believe that I can write. I said to him, no. So then the person gave me, an assignment. She said, go home, write something, and bring it to me next week. So that's when I went back at my room by then. I used to live as illegal by then. I had a room with a wardrobe and a glass on it. So I sat on my bed, I look at the mirror, I saw myself, and I smiled. So that's how the poem started. So looking at the man in the mirror, and, makes me smile. Yep. And I said to him, you know what? Many of my smiles begins with you.
I want to ask you about that smile in a minute, but one more thing about this poetry. Okay, so by now you're the author of 3 published books.
Yeah.
And in this culture, books mean something. But I also notice the way you speak. You're very careful about language, about the words you choose. Is this also kind of, how do you say, a strategy to stay on top?
Well, it's about who you are in the first place. And secondly, I am raised in a culture where you really have to choose your words. We don't have freedom of expression. For example, as a child, you don't tell your father, Papa, how up? No. That do you need? You have to listen, and you always have to choose what you say. So I think it originated from there, and plus the art of writing, of playing with words. Yeah. I think it's a mix of both.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is one thing you brought to our country. Now you're bringing it to the beautiful city of Rotterdam. It takes courage. Because you're originally from around Mambolo, yeah, in Sierra Leone. Yeah. From Mambolo to Rotterdam is about as far as Rotterdam to Amsterdam.
Well, I think circumstances bring them both close. Because Rotterdam is my second home anyway.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Okay, well, I respect that.
Yeah.
No, but to return to the smile. Yeah. Somebody who's new in a city, in a society, in a family, he can choose to smile out of shyness or politeness or because you don't want to offend anybody. But that's a different kind of smile. That's a smile to make yourself smaller. And your smile is something to make yourself stronger.
Yes, for me, smiling is a way, to walk through fire, I always, when I was a child, I used to be the same, Like even if something terrific has happened here, something that people shout like, oh, in our culture, I would just start laughing, smiling. People were like, shut up, you don't take anything serious. But indeed, I took it serious because, my smile makes me calm. And when I smile that way, it makes me stronger to come up with a solution. Right. So then I'll tell people, calm down, let's do this. And then most times we come to a solution. Yeah. So it's sort of my strength.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not a way to hide yourself, it's a way to show yourself.
Well, some people look at it as a way of hiding myself, being humble, because I'm a humble person. But when people get to know me, they will know it's also a part of my strength.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Very good.
But behind the smile, there is always a heavy backpack to carry,
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
And listening or reading your poetry, it is clear you don't hide the darker parts of your journey either. Huh? It's not like you're how do you say, putting the tough story in the shadows. They're part of the whole thing. They're part of the same thing. Yeah, telling your story, I think, is the most difficult thing to do, especially the things we're going through as refugees all over the world. It's so painful as a human being, not being recognized, being rejected, even being accepted. You're still being stereotyped. Right. Even those that are accepted,
that got the stay or wherever or become a citizen, there is still this stereotyping going on in the political arena, you know, in the countries where we look for safety.
Yeah.
So it's quite tough, you know, to come out from that, you know, downside to tell your story.
Right.
So if you come out and tell that story, I think it takes a lot of strength to me.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And to share it is also
Share,
strength.
yeah. So I think it's important for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're not the only one, as we can see tonight. We will be joined also by Hafsa Moujali. There she is. Please join us. Hafsa is a writer too. We'll talk about more about your situation and background in a minute. But first, I want to ask you, how do you respond to Ismail's story and the way he carries poetry, the way he uses poetry in order to show the strength? How do you look at that? Because you're a very different kind of writer. We'll get to that in a minute. But how you look at this writer?
I think about writing, it's really, as he said, it's a way of expressing yourself. So he considered it as his home, and I think to me it's also home. It's the way that helped me cope with the things that I was struggling with. Like I have been writing for 17 years so far, but it was always my escape, my way to go to. Expressing myself and others through writing. So I agree on that. It's really can be called a home.
Yeah. And do you recognize something in